So, there was this part, short before the end, where I was saying this game really likes to show off how beautiful it is. Let's remember the end of the first game, where we were in a cauldron, which, caters directly to my needs of mechanical pornography. That's gonna be nice for the YouTube algorithm when it picks that word up in the first 5 minutes, right? So, ah, also, yes, this doesn't not uh, like I say, mega. This game, I think it has the main storyline even as a VR mod. And I saw Linus Tech Tips play this for a little bit, and I really like how the VR technology works in that sense, because it does something really well. It knows where you are looking, and it high res renders that spot where you're looking at, and the rest of the image is pretty low res rendered. So that is pretty damn cool that we have games that can do that and function in such a way. And in the same video, like he had like a 4K or 8K monitor, like a really big monitor, and some others standing in front of the monitor, basically pointing at where he was looking inside of the game. And it was really easy to tell for them. Pretty dang awesome. But now I will basically monologue for a bit. Like I said, this game really likes to point out how freaking pretty it is. And I do not like aggressive cinema in that way, because I wanna. It's basically like the art section we had from Tilda. You want to stand in front of the picture, and the more you look at a picture, the more the picture can tell you. But that is only if you let the picture talk to you. You can, of course, just look at it and then walk to the next one till you find one that spikes your interest. But this game at so many points was like, look at me. Look at me. You are not allowed to look away. Yeah. And man, does it look pretty. Like, you cannot argue its ugliness. It's, you know. But while we are in the art section, basically, I don't know what they did to the cauldrons, because they look boring as frick. And I really like mechanical stuff. Makes Pacific Rim comes to mind. Like, even at the start of this game, I would take my time and look at every single robot in this game. At how well the model is done. Even at the very end, when I was in that one cauldron here where we tried to subdue Hephaestus, like at one point I stopped to look at that stairway to see if there are actually bumps. If it's fake 3D or if it's actual. And then one of Aloy's feet glitched into the textures permanently, and I'm sitting here. What the fuck, game? you know, you know, and that is one of the more important flaws of this game. And wait a second, another thought just came to mind. Because one thing I usually say at the end of a game is endings are hard. It's a quote from this show Supernatural that I picked up, with an explanation that stories usually, writers of stories usually have the problems of writing endings, since it's really fun to just write the adventure, write how the crew meets, how they overcome obstacles, but at some point a story needs to end. And if you're just having so much creativity and fun of writing this story, ending it becomes almost impossible. Because you don't, as a writer, you do not want to end this story. That's probably a problem Game of Thrones readers will have when, or if the last book finally comes out, because how that TV show ended, and now Mr. Martin really is under big pressure to make something better than that. But probably there will be a little bit of extra negative backlash, because people now expect too much perfection from his book. But back to this game. I just realized that I do not really have any problems with this game ending. A lot of this game, I had a lot of problems with the narrative. How I always batted my head against the wall when I heard Aloy be very emotional about stuff. And I even said it, she's quite bratty and impulsive. Which is not necessarily a bad trait, but for me, as a very strict logical person, that just irritates me. But yeah, that's just her. But I also realized that I really like how harmonical the ending was. How everything fitted together, no matter how cringe at the end the Zenith were. And as one of my viewers pointed out, that they even had access to the technology, even so the shield was deactivated. So a lot of stuff didn't make sense. It still works, So I guess that closes the art thing. Because a lot of these things I would otherwise say in art are these things I would say for the previous game. How detailed everything is. I guess the thing I should highlight is how much more detail there is in this game. And the only really artistic negative thing I found was tropical leaves. Because here you can say that the sunlight doesn't really break the textures or anything. Or doesn't have bright, glaring tones, like, for example, on the wings of this sunwing, right? You can see how the sun is basically shining in your face. But but there it's natural. But on wet tropical leaves, it was happening on every single leaf, and it was highly irritating. And I even went outside to see if that was realistic or not, and it wasn't. It was really irritating me. But since that was only like the area, like 10% of the game, it isn't that big of a deal. That type of oversight is okay. Also, there can be an argument made that, the leaves I have here at my home are not tropical leaves, since I never was at a tropical place. I would also, have a lack of information how that stuff actually looks. How do I tackle the next one? Because I either want to talk about the story as a whole, which will be damn near impossible, or just fighting. Let's go with fighting. Because fighting goes into gameplay. And I must say, compared to the previous game, the gameplay in this game is terrible. Let's go with the closest comparison, which is walking and climbing. Walking often had me run in circuits. This is a problem often with games that are designed for console games. Like one of the most popular games even now is Grand Theft Auto 3, where you sometimes make the input to go into a car, and your character runs around the entire city before he finds the car. And in this game, I often had Aloy not even look into the direction I was pointing it. And the only thing I can think of that is creating this kind of issue is when a game is not created for PC first, but for console first, aka controller and stuff. So, but now it becomes also an argument of, hey, we don't have the technology yet, question mark. I want to do an argument like that, but it's even hard to make a play, to pretend that we don't have the technology like that. Like, I don't even know what sort of excuse would be used to not to justify these kind of issues today. Like, maybe a big maybe could be that there is something in the game engine, on game engine level, that is tricky in that regard. But I honestly couldn't, like, I'm thinking like so critically wrong that you would have to redesign the entire game engine. And I cannot see something like that being possible in this day and age. And yeah, so I'm gonna leave it a bit more open than I would like to. But I don't see why stuff like that should be excuses in this day and age. Climbing. I fucking hate climbing. It was actually a little bit worse than the first game. But I think it's more a feeling. And I feel like that because climbing was more part of this game. Like in the first one, the two main stuffs where you climbed was in side missions or when you go hunting for Banuk statues or metal flowers. It was not really in the main part because they probably knew or felt like how clunky it was, so they went and kept it to a minimum. But then in this game, it was way, way more part of it. And you could also even tell at the end that there was a climbing section, because they were probably convinced that they did a good job this time around with the climbing system. But sometimes in this game, your character couldn't even tell in what direction it was going. And it's not a console input thingy-magic where you I hold D to go right, and I will, oh shit, I should have read that. And then I will change the camera, and then I have to re-input the go right command, and that is it. No. What I discovered was that often I would... Is this? Yes. Da. Start, please. What I often would discover is let's take a random one. Is that I would just stop. By the way, this is a slow drive, and these files are multiple gigabytes large, so please excuse the loading time. It's really has more to do with the file and the medium it's stored on, not the actual video player on my PC. Yeah. The way I usually fix that sort of stuff, climbing stuff, is just go back a segment or two and then try again. And even that I had to try multiple times to get Aloy going. It was quite harsh many times. And then active combat. I often found myself being really frustrated with the lock-on system, to the point where I would recommend to the game to either have it or don't have it. To give the player the option to switch it on and off, but I didn't look for that option, so I don't really know if it was a thing. What else? I feel like I'm not doing it don't feel like I'm doing it justice how bad the melee lock-on system is. Because even so it's described in just a few words, I feel like I should put more volume into it to really speak out of my frustration. Because that was the main reason why I wasn't even doing a lot of it at the start. Because it was so much easier just shooting at people. And then when I've had to fight rebels, human entities, the new or the reworked armor system made it so much harder. It made it so much incredibly harder. They have added more and more detail to damage zones. They made them way smaller, so there were more things you could shoot off, which in a way looks really awesome when you shoot one of those tear shots and then all of the armor stuff falls off. But it becomes really frustrating when you shoot with normal arrows at an enemy. You need like 2 or 3 shots, and then you think, yes, finally a zone where I can do normal to increase damage, and then bam, there was another little 1 HP brick which absorbed a triple sniper shot, and I did how much damage? 4. Yeah. So that really became more frustrating than a element that would add to immersion in the game. That would be a laugh to level of detail I would expect in games like Mordhau or Escape from Tarkov, that claim to be super realistic combat. Mordhau is medieval combat, and Tarkov is modern combat arms. So, yeah. But then, on the other hand, that taught me to only go for already open weak spots or critical hits on face. And while I now have touched on critical hits, why not go to the damage spectrum as a whole? Because brittle or frost status became much, much weaker in this game, or felt much, much weaker in this game than in the previous one. And I honestly cannot put my finger on it exactly. It's as if in the previous game I simply dealt double damage. And in this one, it often feels like I was only doing 150% damage instead of 200%. Even when I'm critting. And one of the reasons for that is the damage area crafting they did. Just like I said for armor. They probably have done the same thing for weak spots and muscle fiber on the bots, where at some spots you do like 40% more damage and stuff. And I really could see that, because my bow would do on the same enemy, it would do 120 damage or 85 damage on not armored spots. And then it would go for 160 for face shots sometimes, because when I hit an eye it would do that damage, but if I hit the nose it wouldn't. So in a way it's great detailing, which you can do I think only in single player games, because if you do that in multiplayer games, there's the problem of having extra communications with the server. The good old 3-point system, like you are here, the server is paint, server, player 1, player 2, and there is this connection. Frick, I have really trouble explaining today. So 20, 40. Like in theory, you would think that a signal would like maybe take 60 milliseconds to travel, but you get an update here every 20 milliseconds, this one every 40. The server has to struggle and find the middle ground and maybe make like 25 to 30 milliseconds updates for this dude in order to keep the data somewhat accurate. So that is then the so-called delays then not enhancing the player experience. Unless it's a game like World of Warcraft, Guild Wars, Final Fantasy, where you have large player versus environment events, where that stuff doesn't really matter. And that is where this single player game also falls in. Since, yeah, um, I've lost the plot. But I wanted to say that it's something along the ways of, this is really great detail, but I think it is wasted for a single player game, just in general. Not to nitpick this in general, as this game specifically, but to generally say, they should have put their effort somewhere else.